Hello children, how are you all? I hope you are all doing good. Are you all enjoying digital classes? Okay, now let us all come to another interesting session of digital classes. Children, do you remember what did we study in our last class? We have studied about different types of microorganisms. Micro means very small, minute, which cannot be seen with our naked eye. So, the organisms which are very minute, which cannot be seen by our naked eye are called as microorganisms. So, the study of the microorganisms is called as microbiology. So, children, what is today's lesson? Today's lesson is microorganisms. So, we have studied about the different types of microorganisms in our last class. Let us all enter to a new world of microorganisms. So, what is microbiology? Let us define what is microbiology. It is a study of microscopic organisms such as bacteria, virus, algae, fungi and protozoa. So, what are microorganisms? The living organisms which cannot be seen by our naked eye, which have only one single cell and which can perform all the metabolic activities like digestion, respiration, excretion, growth and reproduction within the single cell are called as microorganisms. So, observe these microorganisms children, they are of different shapes and sizes. What are the different types of microorganisms we have studied in our last class? Protozoa, fungi, algae, microarthropods, bacteria and virus. Children, these microorganisms are of two types, useful microorganisms and harmful microorganisms. Useful microorganisms, that means they are really very useful to us. Why are they called as harmful? We will be studying in this lesson. Look at this picture children. Useful microorganisms are present in our body. They are used in different ways also by human beings. Harmful microorganisms cause different types of diseases to different living organisms. So, microorganisms are of two types, useful and harmful. So, useful microorganisms can be from algae, useful microorganisms can be from protozoans, useful microorganisms can be from bacteria and even fungi. So, microorganisms which are useful to us are of different types. Now, let us talk about useful microorganisms. Children, how do people use these microorganisms? Let us see the different uses of microorganisms. For preparation of milk products, for making bakery products, for the commercial use of microorganisms, medicinal use, they are used as vaccines, they also increase soil fertility, so they are used as fertilizers and for the cleaning of the environment. Children, the microorganisms are used in the ecosystem for the decomposition of the dead, for recycling the nutrients and for the fixation of nitrogen. Children, fixation of nitrogen, that means the bacteria present in the soil helps in the fixing of nitrogen so that it can be utilized by the plants. How people use microorganisms in the food industry? It can be of different types also. Do you know how curd is formed? When you warm milk and take a little amount of curd and add it into the warm milk, leave it overnight, then early in the morning you can see the milk has been converted into curd. What did you do in the starting? You have taken a little amount of curd and you have added it into the lukewarm milk. The little amount of curd what you have taken and added into the milk, that little amount of curd contains microorganisms. Do you know the name of that microorganism? It is a type of bacteria, that is Lactobacillus bacteria. You can see this bacteria here. Children, this microorganism is also used in making different milk products, like you can make cheese, you can make sour cream or you can make paneer and different types of food materials along with the curd. It is also used in the fermentation process like fermentation of 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 batter or fermentation of alcohol also children. Even in dough class also you can see the use of microorganisms in the fermentation process. Children, we have a small microorganism called as yeast. This yeast is available in the powdered form. This powder, when it is added with a little amount of sugar solution and mixed with any kind of wheat flour and water, then this mixture will give you a dough which is called as a fermented dough. So, what did you understand here children? Microorganisms like yeast can be used in making different bakery products. Children, you can see bread here. What has taken place here? When flour is mixed with sugar and water and yeast, this flour, it gets fermented. What is this called as? Fermentation means? Fermentation means the release of carbon dioxide takes place when ethyl alcohol is formed. There is a big science involved in it. You will be studying about it in the later classes. Here the carbon dioxide is released during fermentation and this dough, it bulges, and that is why you are able to see pores in the bread. This fermentation process, the fermentation produces alcohol. This fermentation process is used commercially in making of alcohol. So, children, commercially microorganisms are used in making different types of beverages, beer, brandy, whiskey, etc. Here what is happening? The different types of fruit juices or barley and some grains, any of it, when it is added with the yeast, allowed to settle, during respiration a new product called as ethyl alcohol is produced. This when is added with the different types of flavors gives you ethyl alcohol. This ethyl alcohol is stored and sold as the different types of beverages. So, this is yeast. You can see the picture here. This is yeast. Definition of fermentation. It is obtained in the powdered form. This one mixed with sugar solution. Sugar gets converted to alcohol. This process is called as fermentation. So, coming to the next use of microorganisms. As I told you, microorganisms are used in food industry and medicinal industry. Medicinal industry. Now, let us see how they are used in it. Children, they are used in making different types of antibiotics. So, antibiotics are the most commonly used medicines which are used to kill the bacteria. How are they produced? They are produced with the help of microorganisms again. We have different types of examples like tetracycline, streptomycin and erythromycin. So, antibiotics are used to cure the diseases which are caused by bacteria. The different types of infections can be treated. Children, you can see Mr. Alexander Fleming in this picture. He was awarded Nobel Prize for his discovery of penicillin. You can see in the picture that he is working in his laboratory. He was working on a bacteria which is causing flu, influenza, and the name of this bacteria is Streptococcus. He was culturing the Streptococcus in his laboratory in small petri dishes like this. Now, these petri dishes were kept in the laboratory, and after few weeks when he went for a vacation and when he came back, he saw a green fungus developed here. This green color fungus was not allowing the growth of Streptococcus bacteria. Why? Because the Streptococcus was killed. What is the name of this? It is a fungus called as Penicillium, and then he found that this Penicillium notatum is not allowing the growth of this bacteria, and from that Penicillium notatum he discovered a medicine called as penicillin. This is an antibiotic which is most commonly used even nowadays. It was mostly used in the World War to treat the soldiers from the diseases which were caused due to bacteria. Children, we use microorganisms for making vaccines. You might have heard each and every child has to be vaccinated. You might have seen how is vaccine given. Here in this picture you can see a small child is given polio drop. Have you heard about it? Children, you might have seen different types of injections given to small babies. Even if you grow up also till a particular age, these vaccines are given. What are these vaccines? They are made from microbes. They are actually the dead or inactive microbes or microorganisms. So, what is happening? The antigen in the vaccine is the same as the antigen which is disease causing antigen. Children, when you give a patient the dead or the inactive microbe, what happens? The antigen which is present in this is same as the antigen which is present in the disease causing organism. So, when it is given to healthy person, then the body develops antibodies, it develops immunity, and so naturally if any microorganism externally it enters, then what happens? Our body is already ready to fight with the new foreign body because it has already developed antibodies against the antigens which were given in the form of vaccine. So, children, the vaccine actually stimulates the body to produce antibiotics against the vaccine. So, let us study about smallpox vaccine. You might have heard about smallpox. Smallpox is a disease which is caused by virus. So, there was a story behind it. Edward Jenner in the year 1796, he was actually worried about the smallpox virus. He observed that the milkmaid who were regularly in contact with the cows and the cattle in their houses did not suffer from the smallpox. Why did they not suffer? Because already they have the antibodies to fight against the smallpox virus. How did they develop the antibodies? Because when they came into contact with the cow or the cattle which already had cowpox, the cowpox virus entered into the body of the milkmaid, and then the milkmaid bodies, they developed antibodies. Now, when smallpox virus entered into their body, it did not cause any harm. So, he observed this and then he wanted to test it on a 8 years boy. He took the permission from the parents and then he administered inactive form of smallpox virus into the boy. And then he observed that when after few days, when the boy was brought near the patient suffering from smallpox virus, the boy actually should suffer from smallpox, but he did not suffer. Why he did not suffer? Because when the smallpox virus, inactive form of it was administered into the boy, he developed antibodies. So, now you understood what is vaccine. Vaccine is introducing or administering inactive form or the dead form of virus into the body of a healthy person, so that the body develops antibodies against the inactive or dead form. And now, when suddenly a healthy virus, if it enters into the body, the antibodies are already present to fight against the disease causing microorganism. So, children, this is the story of smallpox vaccine. You can see here the boy is being given vaccine in the form of injection. Now, let us come to another topic, uses of microorganisms by the plants. How are these useful microorganisms helpful to the plants? We have different types of microorganisms like anabaena and nostoc. Apart from this, we have different types of nitrogen fixing microorganisms like ammonifying bacteria, nitrifying bacteria, different types of bacteria which help in the nitrogen fixation also. We have different types of microorganisms present in the root nodules of leguminous plants like pea plant. If this is a leguminous plant, if you consider, in the roots we find root nodules. The small microorganisms which are present in the root nodules are rhizobium. This rhizobium bacteria fixes the nitrogen in the soil, converts the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates, and this when mixed with water can be easily absorbed by the plants, So, there are different types of microorganisms which help the farmers also, and so they are called as farmer friendly microbes. They help in the decomposition of dead plants and animals like fungi and bacteria. You can see in the picture different types of fungus. These bacteria and fungus, they help in the decomposition of dead plants and animals. In turn, they are increasing the soil fertility because they are decaying the plants and animals, and so again the chemicals from the bodies are added into the soil, in turn increasing the fertility of the soil. Now, there are some microorganisms which are present in the human body and in the animal body also. How are they useful? They help in the digestion. The microorganisms which are present in the intestine convert our waste food materials into excreta. Apart from that, the microorganisms help in the digestion also, and some of the microorganisms, they are present in the blood which help in the production of vitamin K. You know what is the use of vitamin K? It helps in the blood clotting. Some of the microorganisms also help us by fighting against the foreign bodies which enter in our human body. As I told you, harmful microorganisms, they spoil food. So, how will you protect our food from these microorganisms? We have to store them at lower temperatures so that the microorganisms will not cause any type of damage to the food. Another type of important thing what we follow is pasteurization of milk. We can protect milk from getting spoiled due to microorganisms by pasteurization. This was done by Louis Pasteur for the first time. So, he boiled the milk and then cooled it. After boiling, the microorganisms will be killed, and if you suddenly cool the milk, the total microorganisms will not grow. So, in this way you can store the milk by a process called as pasteurization. How will you store the different food materials? By keeping it in the fridges, by keeping it in the cold storages. So, like this you can protect your food materials. So, coming to the next topic, that is harmful microorganisms. Harmful, the word itself tells us that they cause harm. Harmful microorganisms are of different types like virus, fungi, parasites and bacteria. They cause different types of diseases. The diseases which are caused by bacteria are meningitis, pneumonia, tuberculosis, cholera, dysentery and typhoid. What are the symptoms of meningitis? If you suffer from meningitis, you will have symptoms like fever, neck pain, sleepiness, vomiting, joints pain, rashes, headache, seizures and even the light sensitivity. Children, one more disease caused by bacteria is pneumonia. The transfer is through air. Another disease causing bacteria is tuberculosis. The mode of transmission is air. So, from one person to another person, the disease spreads through air. Another type of disease caused by bacteria is cholera. The symptoms are stomach pain, leg cramps, mild fever, vomitings, sunken eyes, dry mucous membrane and decreased urinary output. How is it getting transferred from one person to another person? Through air, through water and vectors. Now, what is vector? Vector is a carrier which will carry the disease from a diseased person or a patient to a healthy patient. So, vector is a carrier. Another type of disease is typhoid. The mode of transmission is through air, water and vectors. Now, see the diseases caused by viruses. Children, AIDS spreads from one person to another person when the healthy person comes into contact of the body fluids of a diseased person. Common cold, it spreads through air. Dengue is spread by mosquito. The mosquito here is acting as a vector. This mosquito, when it bites a patient and again when it bites an healthy person, the disease causing virus enters into a healthy person. So, mosquito is acting as a carrier. It is also called as vector. Female Aedes mosquito causes dengue. Now, chikungunya is also a disease which is caused by virus. It also spreads through a vector called as mosquito. Another type of disease caused by virus is measles. It spreads through air. Chickenpox, it spreads from one person to another person when a healthy person comes into contact with a diseased person. COVID-19, it is caused by coronavirus. How does it spread? When a healthy person comes to the contact of a diseased person, when he sneezes or coughs or any of the fluids of his body fall on a healthy person, then if he touches the fluids and again if the healthy person is putting it in his mouth or the nose, then the coronavirus enters into the healthy person. So, we have to be very careful to avoid sneezes and coughs of the diseased person. We have to wear mask. To avoid the fluid entering from our body, we have to wear mask and we have to wash our hands, because this coronavirus can be killed by soaps. So, you always have to frequently wash your hands using soaps or any liquid, so that your hand which came into contact of any fluid of the diseased person will not enter your mouth or nose. Okay, children, we have another type of diseases called as fungus. Children, you might have seen farmers working in the crops, they frequently get suffered due to candida. It is a fungus which affects the hands and the fingers. So, when people they come into contact with water frequently and fungus when it attacks, then the body gets infected by that fungus, causing a disease called as candida. So, they also suffer from different types of diseases caused by fungus like ringworm and athlete's foot. These are all the skin diseases caused by fungus. So, children, let us come to another type of disease caused by protozoas. Protozoans are also minute microorganisms. These protozoans, they enter into our body and disturb our metabolic activities. Some of the protozoans, they cause deadly diseases also like malaria, elephantiasis, ascariasis. So, these are all the different types of diseases caused by protozoans. Children, here these protozoans, they are carried from one person to another person by vectors. Plasmodium vivax is a type of microorganism which is carried by female Anopheles mosquito, which enters into the mosquito when it bites the diseased patient. Mosquito is acting as a vector, a carrier which carries the Plasmodium vivax in the form of minute particles called as sporozoids. When this mosquito bites a healthy person, then the healthy person also starts suffering from malaria. So, what are the symptoms of malaria, children? Fever at regular intervals with shiverings. So, this is a type of disease caused due to protozoa. Now, plants. We will see some examples in which diseases are caused in the plants due to microorganisms like citrus canker. Now, here you can see the citrus fruit which is infected by the bacteria. This spreads from one fruit to another fruit by air. So, citrus canker is caused by bacteria. Another type of disease is red rot of sugarcane. It is caused by fungus in sugarcane crop. You can see the stem becomes red and it is not useful for extracting juice to make sugar now, because it has fungus in it. It also spreads from one healthy sugarcane to another sugarcane through air. Children, how can we protect ourselves from these harmful microorganisms? So, now let us recall what we have studied. I hope you have understood the lesson. Let us recall what we have studied, children. Some microorganisms are useful and some are harmful. Microbes are used in many industries like food industry and medicinal industry. Some microorganisms cause diseases. Many animals act like carriers and vectors for diseases. Children, try to answer these questions. The important questions are: what is microbiology? What are the different types of microorganisms? What is vaccine? What are antibiotics? What are the steps to be taken for eradicating malaria? Children, for better understanding and for proper learning, try to download worksheets from SCERT website and solve them. This will also help you to comprehend the topic in a better way. Children, I hope you have understood the lesson. Now, let us meet in another interesting session of science. Thank you.